So I think at a base level, Hamilton is entertaining. It's a history lesson. It is an incredible vehicle to inform people about the past and inform people about history. Like I said, you go to the theater for either escapism, you go for comfort, or you go to be challenged. Sometimes you go for comfort and you leave challenged. I love working with other talented artists because I feel like I get better by osmosis.
Welcome to the StageLync podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. Today's podcast episode is an encore presentation. As we approach the end of 2024, we'll be sharing some of the best episodes from the Theatre Art Live podcast, the predecessor to the StageLync podcast. Enjoy today's episode.
My name is Kat Landry.
And my name is Anna Robb, and today we're talking with John Devereaux. Since earning his BFA from TCU, John has performed in Rent, Dreamgirls, originated a role in the world premiere of Recorded in Hollywood, and is currently touring with the ensemble of Hamilton, an American musical. The Houston native has also gained a captive audience of 130,000 followers and counting on Instagram and TikTok, where he shares snippets of his life backstage and engages with his fans. John, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And we were just talking offline where you are at the moment. So tell us where you are and what you're doing with Hamilton right now.
All right. Right now, we are in Cleveland. We just got here a couple days ago to start our 6-week run. And I'm here being a standby, which means I'm not on stage that much. But, you know, just in case they need me, in case things go left, I'm right where they need me to be.
Now, you've played a number of roles in Hamilton. So tell us about your journey through Hamilton and what roles you've played since you joined the company.
Oh, okay. I started back in April of 2019, and I started in the ensemble with the Angelica Company in the ensemble. And I also, with that, covered 3 different roles: King George, George Washington, and Mulligan Madison. Since then, I've been in the company since we had the pandemic. We had got shut down, and then we came back. I was still back in fall of 2021. We started back in Tempe with the tour, and I recently left the Angelica tour this fall to join a new company, still in the Hamilverse, but now I am a principal standby, so I also still do all of those tracks, but I'm also doing Lafayette Jefferson now. And I'm out here, we're traveling, and it's a new experience for me.
That's amazing. I thought, excuse my ignorance, but I thought most standbys were actually usually in the cast and ensemble, but you're actually as a standby not in the show generally. How is that set up, and is that different from normal musicals?
I think in the shows that are long-standing or touring or open-ended runs, there's usually ensemble members that cover principal tracks who are in the show every night. And that was a great thing for me because I make friends, and all of my friends that I've made have been theater people. And it's been through a show that I've been able to connect with people and be on stage like that. Also, covering means that I'm in rehearsals, so I got to connect with the offstage company. So that was really great too. I was playing Man 6 before, and that's just an interesting role that's on stage, but also has offstage work. The difference is that there is a normality of that track in theater. There's a standby who's strictly, I think the purpose of a standby is to stand by just in case something goes left. So in case mid-show or there's a principal who calls out at the last minute. And sometimes it's how the pieces stack up. So if you do have somebody who's in the ensemble who's covering multiple tracks and they're an on-stage cover and they're in the show and it's going, it would be more difficult to get them out of the show, put on a swing, get that person changed into costumes, and then continue there. Whereas a standby could be there mid-show and the onstage cover could continue doing their track with minimal disruption backstage with costumes. It's just an easier way. So it's being a standby is kind of a just in case emergency situation. But I'm also in the rotation of the people who get to go on for certain tracks. So it's not like I'm constantly being skipped over for someone else, but I am the just in case.
Amazing. I like that role.
Me
so
too.
tell me, but the problem is it's like a standby for multiple roles. You got to remember all of them, right? So it's not
absolutely.
that easy.
No, luckily I came in with 3 already memorized, and I'm learning the 4th one now.
Amazing, multifaceted. I wanted to ask, like, for you as a US citizen, what does Hamilton mean to you? And you know, because it's such an iconic American musical, and it is playing out around the world, which is really interesting, and it's popular around the world, despite that it's got a very American focus. But for you as a US citizen, what does it mean to you?
There's a time we're in right now of revolution, social revolution, and changing old regimes into things that are important and equal and fair and right. The things that we believe in now here in America, it's an important thing to use your voice and speak out and fight against the injustices that are happening here in America. I think this is an incredible vehicle to show what those injustices are, because I think people can latch on to the nation of America and the revolution that America escaped from tyranny to pursue religious freedoms and financial freedoms and just in the general independence to be your own. And I think when people see that musical, as y'all know, with theater, it's in how you come into the theater is what you interpret the piece, how you want, and you take away what you want. So I think at a base level, Hamilton is entertaining. It's a history lesson. It is an incredible vehicle to inform people about the past and inform people about history. I think on other levels, though, if people are there looking a little deeper, or if someone has come to the theater with something missing from their heart, or if they've been through something that day, I think there's more to Hamilton than just that. I think as an American citizen, seeing revolution on stage, seeing people fight for what they believe in, willing to die for what they believe in, friendship, camaraderie, and going into battle together, love in war, hate in war, pain in war. I think there's all of these different elements with, yes, this revolution is happening, but it affects so many people, but it also, it affects their personal lives. There's so much in war. And now being able, if you take that with you into the real world today, the social injustices and the revolutions the many revolutions that we fight today really permeate our personal lives as well. It affects how we love, who we talk to, how we talk to them. And I think that is the impact of Hamilton in that way. I know it's crazy to say a show does all of that, but I think for the right person, it does. And doing the show enough, I think of everything in the show. I'm still learning new things. I'm still picking up on certain themes. I'll go into the theater happy one day and not so happy the next day, frustrated, and then I get something different every time. But yeah, that the importance of this musical as an American citizen, especially a Black American citizen, it's important to see people who look like me on stage. And I think it's important for to have representation and to be able to tell a story and tell history in the way that people can understand it.
Yeah, and I think, the way that like it breaks the taboo of what ethnicity or background you come from in certain roles is totally thrown out the window in the show, and I love that, right? And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and just to say that's not important, and put these people on stage in whatever role they're fit for. I think there's something that's just it's not groundbreaking, but it is something that is visible in this show, and you appreciate the conscious choice about it, right?
Absolutely. And I think it adds, I think changing our perceptions of, oh, these black and brown and yellow people cannot play white people. They cannot play our founding fathers. You have to ask yourself, why do I think that? Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it challenges you. I think you go, like I said, you go to the theater for either escapism, you go for comfort, or you go to be challenged. Sometimes you go for comfort and you leave challenged. And you have to think about why you feel these things. You're confronted with yourself. And I think like I said, I think it's very important that we have a diverse cast, and not just in skin color, but also in creed, in beliefs, in everything. Because that is America. Like you're seeing I think
America on stage.
What does Lynn say? He says, or no, Tommy Kail, who's the director of the show, he said, Hamilton is, I might be paraphrasing. So Tommy, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Hamilton is a story of America yesterday, America's past, told by people of America today and what America looks like today. So I think that it just fits so well, because what we do is, like, in theater, we're storytellers. You have to have some sense of suspension of disbelief in order to come into the theater. We know witches aren't real, and they're not green, and they can't fly off into the sky. We know these things. If you can suspend your disbelief for that, you can suspend your disbelief for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Yeah, yeah. I also felt the same way about when Bridgerton came out, and there was such a and I was like, yes. It was just like how refreshing to see all of that diversity just smashed into a period piece. I thought that was so amazing, and we need more of that. I wanted to ask you though too, given the fact that you take this around the country, do you see differences in the response from audiences from place to place, and what is that experience like? Tell me about how that plays out.
So when I joined the Angelica Company, we had a route that followed a lot of the cities that are mentioned in the show. So we were in Virginia, we were in upstate New York, we were in we were in these places, and the audiences there were so in tune. And there would be, like, the top of the second act, we were in Richmond. And that's funny because we're going to be going back to Richmond on this tour. We were in Richmond, and every time the second act would start with "What Did I Miss?" Thomas Jefferson's coming home. And it's like he's coming home to Virginia. So the reaction was real from the audience, I think. And there was a moment, back when President Trump did the whole quid pro quo thing. There's a line in the musical in Hamilton where they say a quid pro quo, and it would get a laugh from the audience. The audience would erupt sometimes, at that line. I think it speaks to the climate that we're in. I don't even think it's like a bad climate. I'm not even saying that. I think it's everything. It's so timeless. And this show specifically has permeated the political realm and the theatrical realm. And honestly, like, pop culture, to the point where I think Hamilton has become like this entity, this timeless entity that just permeates through media. So going to different places and having people cheer at certain moments, like in the Capitol shout, or if we're in a certain place, it's like hearing your favorite artist say, your city. It's like, how you doing,
Mm.
Cleveland? How you doing? It's like, we're here. There's a connection that we make in that. And I think it's important to take this show everywhere it can go, because I think everybody, there's something in this show that everybody needs to see.
Mm. And like you said, I think there's some universal themes that play out no matter what country, love in war and adversity and friendship and standing up for what you believe in, and all of those universal truths that sit in many of the classics that stand the test of time. And I think that's one of those ones that, I when it came out, it just was boom, done. It was there and everybody loved it. I think that's when it hits the mark there. So I want to switch a little bit. You didn't originally study theatre at university, I read. So you started with communications and business. So tell us about that switch to performing
Sure.
arts.
I just graduated from high school, and I had a whole journey with just being in theater in high school. My friends were in a show, so that one person had dropped out of the show, and my friends came up to me and were like, "John, you should come on, come on, do the show with us. It's fun." And I was like, "Nah, it's not really my thing." I was much more of a bookworm. I was into my studies. I loved I didn't want to do theater at that point for sure. But they convinced me, peer pressure, and I ended up just doing it to hang out with my friends. So we were going through the rehearsal process, did everything, and it was great. And then I had my moment on stage. Opening night came around, and at the end of that night, there was a moment, there was something in the opening night that clicked for me. Just being in front of, I don't even think it was being in front of an audience. I think it was all being connected to one moment. Like the audience was watching this moment. I was performing in this moment. The technical aspects were about this moment. I don't know. I couldn't explain it then, but I think it was more so about the unity of a moment and focus than more than anything else. But anyway, that was when I wanted to. I knew I wanted to do some sense of acting. I wanted to perform in some way. But I wanted to. When I got to college, I was like, I got to get a real degree. I have to go and have a backup plan. Even if I wanted to pursue this professionally, I still need to have something. But all my communication classes and my professors and the way that they spoke about communication, everything in the back of my mind, I was just like, this sounds like theater. This sounds like something I could do and like theater adjacent. I could do this and still have some sense of I guess joy and purpose from doing something in communication. As I was in my classes, I just discovered I had a double minor at the time. I was doing a business minor and I don't even remember because I dropped it. I dropped one of those minors, and then I actually ended up dropping the business minor too, because I picked up a theater minor. One of my friends from my biology class, she was just always nudging me, and we were lab partners for a project, and she would just nudge me and say, "Hey, you should try out for the show. You should do this. You should." She was just very supportive in that way. So I ended up doing it. My first show at TCU was No Exit, and it was great. It was a
I
hard
love
hard
No
text
Exit,
for
by the
me.
way. Sorry.
It's incredible. No, like it. For my first collegiate show, that was a lot for me. It's the cast of three, whole bunch of words, very very heavy material. So it was like I dove into it and I loved it. I was like, I can't go 4 years knowing this is available to me and not take full part of it. And also TCU was expensive. So I was also logically thinking, okay, after college, do I want to have spent $100 on communication, or do I want to put it towards, like something I could put on my resume, something I can, oh, he trained for 4 years. Oh, he's serious about it. So I decided to do that because one, I loved it, and two, it was like a logical choice.
That's amazing. And so what was your path to sort of being gainfully employed in the industry? It was the first question. And then what advice would you give those who are wanting to work in performing arts? Because for some people it's breaking into it, right? That's the challenge.
It really is. Like, I was very, very fortunate to have representation. I had my very first professional job came from one of my friends' mom in college. This was my junior year, and there was a summer stock that was happening, and her mom well, actually, it's not her mom, but she told me, someone told me, like, hey, you should, submit for this. You should audition for this. And I was like, I don't know. This is my first thing. So I auditioned for Once on This Island and ended up being cast in that. And that was my very first job, my first professional job. That I still had it while I was in college. I did some summer stock, but I know that was, by chance. I was ready and I was prepared, but the opportunity, you can never predict when those opportunities come. So that would be my very first piece of advice. Like, anything, be prepared for anything that comes your way. If someone says, hey, there's a project that I think you'd be right for, just submit for it. You have to get used to kind of throwing things in the void, but you have to throw things in the void in order to eventually get something to stick. Because if you don't throw, oh yeah, I guess that's what they say. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's where that comes from. So but also training yourself and being ready for those moments. Collaborate with friends. If there's anything you want to do creatively, like for me, being on TikTok is a way for me to break out of this Hamilton structure. I creatively get what I need on stage, but I also have to have another creative outlet. I will always say, collaborate with your friends, write, read plays. These are like basic things. But to break in, like, take classes with people that you want to work with. I always took classes with casting directors not classes. Well, I guess they don't do this anymore. But before, I was able to take a class with a casting director who was on a show that I watched that I felt I was right for. So and then when I went to that casting director, I would pick a scene not directly from that show, but, well, maybe I would. Sometimes I would pick a direct scene from that show, but something that was in the style of the show that I liked that they cast. So it's just finding your way not to the opportunities, but being prepared for when those chances come. Make your own content. I'm always writing down ideas in the middle of the night. I'm writing down lines like, oh, this would be a good line from a TV show, or this would be a great idea to do. I'll wake up out of my sleep because I know that I'll forget it. And just start creating yourself, and you'll begin to pull in people who are like-minded. You'll be able to create your own art. And I guess the way to get people to get in this position that I'm in, those are the things that I did. I was not always saying yes, but I said yes 95% of the time. I was like, yeah, I'll do this project with my friend. Yeah, I'll do this commercial. Yeah, I'll do this class. Yeah, I'll do I'll do this interview. Yeah, I'll do this, because you never know who you're going to meet and at anything. You could be going to, I was an extra for a while. And when I was living in Los Angeles, I would go to set and just mingle with all the other extras. You start to build a community. And I think that's really what's the most important thing and that the jobs will come, the employment will come, the training, and as long as you're prepared for it and you're out there actively seeking it, it'll come. And I know that sounds really cliche, and I wish there was like a do this, and then this happens. But it's so much more abstract than that, and I think it has so much to do with where who and where people are in their own journey. Because if you're not in a financial position to take a class, or if you're not in a emotional position to be able to reach out to people in that way, I totally understand. You know, you have to do the path that's right for you. But I definitely think the basis of how I got to where I am is being prepared, being kind, being kind. Actually, switch those. Be kind, be prepared, and don't stop. That all sounds so cliche. I really want to give like a definitive answer, but
No,
for
I think you've
me,
explained
you
it well. I
know,
think that it is those combination of those things, and I wouldn't say it's a grind. It's more a little bit of a grit, to be prepared and
mm,
be there to present those, be there for those opportunities when they come around the corner. And like you said, relationships and a network of people, you never know where those things may lead. And like, yeah, that may be cliche, but it's works, right? Like that is
yeah,
the thing that's going to get you across the line. I did want to ask you though, because I think from you, the way you just expressed it before was your social media is like a creative outlet for you. But I think also now there's a great representation also as an outlet for you as a brand, as a person that can be gainfully employed in the arts. Like how I think that came secondary, but for other people, do you feel like social media is a way to get yourself out there? Is it necessary these days? What's your thoughts on that?
oh man, I just posted something on my Instagram story about how we've really gotten into consuming likes and comments, and how social media is becoming, there's a blurred line of what the how we feel qualified to do what we do. It's crazy that social media has become a qualifier for certain things, for jobs, for uh, even being cast or being looked at to come in for an audition. I think it's uh, I don't think it's a good metric to go off of when it comes to like theater jobs. I don't even think with acting, because yes, if someone has a lot of followers, and I think that's the number most people are looking at, it's I hope that people know that there are bots out there, that there's things that people can buy to fluff up their Instagrams, and people are doing that in order to get the opportunities from people. It's like a cause and effect. I I think social media is, again, I think it's a great way to connect with anybody. I think it's a way to connect with through any type of way. Like you can connect through a video, you can connect through a DM. Like I think social media is great in that way, but I feel like it's gotten a little away from that connection standpoint, and now it's expanding into qualification. I don't particularly think that bringing somebody, because this has happened. Somebody has told me that, oh, they picked this person over me because they have a better social media following. It used to be, oh, this person got picked over me because they have a Broadway credit and I
Their
don't.
talent.
And like it used to be that. I mean, even if you have two talented people, I think that's it comes to the end of like, okay, it's crazy that that's one of the questions you ask at the end is, okay, who has a Broadway credit? Okay, who has more social media followers? Who has who can push our show the best? This is it's just a different world we're living in. But I always say to my actor friends who are around my age, a lot of them aren't willing to, do the TikTok thing and dive in because they're like, oh, I'm an actor. I shouldn't have to get TikTok. I shouldn't have to do those things. And I was thinking the same. I was in a class like maybe about a decade ago, and people were saying the same. Older people in the class were saying the same thing about Twitter at the time. And I'm like, or Twitter or Instagram and things like that. And I was like, it's just another platform for you to just get out there. It's a way to showcase yourself. I don't know. I always think this is about our perspective. It's about your perspective on social media and what's going on. For me, it's like I said, it's always been about that connection and letting people know who I am. But it's hard to navigate that when you have your livelihood connected to it. It's hard, especially as a performer, when you want that job, when you want to be a part of a project, and your social media following is a prerequisite to it. It's frustrating, and I just don't think social media should be used in that way in connection with theater, but as an outlet, as a way to promote, as a way to market, as a way to, even actors just being. I think it's a phenomenal tool to let people know who you are. I think it's great. You're able to authentically, I think that's the most important thing, is you have to authentically show up. You don't have to show people everything about you, but the pieces you do show about yourself inform the person on the other side of the screen, who you are, what you believe in, how you sound, what you look like, what your mannerisms are. And a lot of that does come, it translates. People get a lot of information from social media. They get a lot about who you are. So that part of it is great for performance and casting. And I love that. That's why we do slates. I feel like you, instead of a slate, go to my TikTok, see because I sitting there, arms down, being looked up and down for 5 seconds and smiling, standing still is much more awkward than you just typing in at the John Devereaux and you can see what I'm giving. But yeah, that's how I feel
That's amazing.
About social media.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good answer because I think it's actually quite complex and how you've explained it. There's some positives and negatives about it, but despite opinion, it is what it is in some cultures and it does shape it, right? And it's funny it's not funny because Hong Kong, TikTok is banned in Hong Kong. So
oh, wow.
This whole world for me is, I don't see it. And so I know there's this whole world that exists in the TikTok realm, and I see stuff through Instagram reels and all of that sort of stuff. But, my extent of Instagram reels and stuff is watching cat videos with my kids. So
same. Listen.
That's about what we do. But but it's really, really fascinating that especially because I think that, especially in the US, where a lot of social media is the biggest thing, is the Instagram and social media, that how now that starts to play into people's careers. And I don't know whether that's a phase and it will go out, or whether it's an ongoing trend where we'll get further and further into that. But, I guess we watch this space.
We'll see. Yeah. I feel like I thought when the Reels came out and TikTok was just popping off, I really thought people were going to start making small short films. I thought that they were going to be making these projects and like 15-second movies and minute-long movies. And I wish I saw more of that online. I wish that my algorithm was like that. My feed was like that. I'm sure it's out there. But I think, like I said, as an actor, like that's such an important tool you could use to not only promote yourself, but just, to get those creative juices out.
Yeah. And a lot of people, the great equalizer of that is that you're not having to meet that right producer or that right thing. It's an open source platform. So your exposure, if you are talented, means that you can be found. And I think that's that's all great positive, right? If you're putting out great content and people see it, then it's a much more even playing field than, but knowing the right person and being in the right city to get that job, So I think that's a cool
Right.
thing about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Cool. So we always ask at the end of our podcast 2 questions. So the first one is, what do you like most about your job or the industry?
I think it's an ongoing theme that I've been talking about. I love working with other talented artists because I feel like I get better by osmosis, just by being around other people like this and in observing them working at their highest level, because the people here are incredibly talented. And I'm not just talking about on stage either. Backstage, seeing how everything works. Just our whole company is just badass at their job. And just watching is crazy. That's my favorite. And also having a group that you can pull from if you do want to do a project or if you do want to do something. There's tons of people here who would be down. You know that there are people here who would embrace that. And I like having access to other artists that would either want me to be in a project, or I would want them in mine, or just literally, it's comforting having somebody who's going through the same thing as you, because specifically on tour, it's a different beast because your coworkers are your friends, your colleagues are your friends. Like they're the constant in your life, and you connect in a way that, I don't know, like it's just a great connection between work and personal, and I love that. About our industry right now, I love that there's some bit of change happening now. I love that there is uh, more daring theater out there. I like that there's theater out there that take risks and represent people who have not been seen on stage in a, in this light. I feel like it's the theater industry has a duty to be a mirror. I think that's all art, but I think the theater industry has a duty to be a mirror to its audiences. And there are many shows that do that. And like I said earlier, either by challenging them or comforting them. And I think that there's more of that theater. So I am loving that. Uh, but I also I love the joy that we bring to people. I love, I love that. My TCU mural is, they took a quote that I said, the stage is a platform for joy. And it truly is. Because for me, when I saw The Lion King for the first time, I was overjoyed. I was overjoyed. I was filled. It inspired me. I wanted to do more with my life. I wanted to do what they were doing on stage. I was just filled, and I wanted to make people feel how I felt in that moment. And to think that I was one out of 2,000 people in that audience. So I know that other people were feeling what I was feeling. And it's important. We have that duty as well, to inspire. For me, I'm not going to put that on everybody, because I know that what we do is hard, and sometimes we don't need the added pressure of, oh, this one person's in the audience I have to push myself for them every night. I'm not going to put that on anybody else. But for me, that's kind of in the back of my mind, because Little John is in that audience all the time. Even when I was in Los Angeles, I met my Uber driver was an older gentleman. And he told me he saw his first musical the week previous. His daughter went to go take him to see Moulin Rouge. And I think that's just like, I never think of, oh, there's a man out there who has children and everything, and who's never seen a show. I always think in my mind, like, oh, it's a
Isn't
kid.
that crazy?
It's a kid. But and it opened my mind. It's like, no, people. There are people out there who have not experienced this ever. Ever. So it's like, okay, I want your first time to be a good one. So I'm gonna give you a great performance. But yeah,
That's
just to
super cool.
constantly
That's
inspire,
super cool. Mm. That's amazing. The stage is a platform for joy. I love that. I'm
Mhm.
going to remember that one.
Yeah.
And the other question we have is if you could change one thing about your job or the industry, what would that be?
Oh, no more 8-show weeks. No more 8-show weeks. No more 5-show weekend. People are tired. We want to go home. That's like number one. Honestly, number one is
I
no more
love that.
5-show weekends.
There was no hesitation there right there.
At
That
all.
was straight out.
Can you tell? Can you tell that I'm a little riled up about it? Can you tell that I've thought about
I love
this?
it.
And I also have another one. I also no travel day. No no traveling on our day off.
Mm,
Because like our
That's
travel
it.
days are usually on a Monday,
a moving day.
and that's in our day off. So there's that. And you said one. Never mind. I'm not gonna. I'm not. I'm not gonna go off. I'm not gonna go off on.
No, it's good.
On
It's
the
good.
theater industry.
I love that. No, but I think it's good. It's in equal measure of you loving the industry. There's always things to work on, right? And
Oh, absolutely. I think life is all about balance. This year I've learned two things can be true, and it's okay. It's okay to feel two things at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I fully embrace the joy and the happiness, and that's not going to interfere about my frustrations and the things that I want to change. Those two things
Yeah.
can exist because they do.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to get to know you in the last 40 minutes on our podcast, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Thank you again for having me. This has been a great start to my morning. I love chatting about the industry and anything to inspire and also be with fellow artists.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the StageLync podcast. StageLync is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLync Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLync podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLync Pro membership. Visit us at stagelync.com, and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLync, that's StagelYnc.com.